Go ahead, bring it up.
Families at the very heart of our archdiocesan effort to unleash the gospel.
That's right, and we're so pleased now to welcome our next guest for our first guest of the next segment, Mr. David Grobel, to share how his office is supporting married couples here in the Archdiocese. Good evening, David.
Hi, David.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Father Mario. Very good to see you guys also on that. My name is David Grobel. I work at the Archdiocese. I work in the Marriage and Family Office. And more specifically, I look at ways we can support marriages and couples in their vocation of marriage. So we look at doing marriage prep, but also once they get married, we launch them into the Catholic marriage, what supports we might offer for them. So we did recognize a number of couples, they have come across normal struggles in their marriage, and then looking to the faith community who married them, what supports would be available for them. And honestly, it was a kind of a minimum amount in different ways. So what we came up with to kind of fill that gap was what we call marriage coaching ministry. So I became familiar with a couple out of the Archdiocese of Denver who've been doing a marriage coaching ministry for a number of years. So we brought them into Detroit, and they did a couple training sessions with couples who felt called and gifted to do a coaching ministry for couples in marriage. So anyways, we got that program together, and that was about 2 years ago. And then since then, we've had a really fruitful ministry of couples at no cost, fully subsidized, to work with a mentor couple or coaching couple in their marriage and get to know them, walk aside them. And it's kind of a structured program, but it's really open-ended too, just how we can support them. So that's what we were able to do with the funding of the CSA, and just have really good results from that.
Excellent. David, can you introduce tonight the couple that you have here with us?
Yeah, this is one of our coaching couples who went through the training, and their name is Sue and Michael Barzak, and they've worked with a number of couples, and every couple is unique and different. So they're going to share a bit their experience of their work with couples and how that has benefited the couple that are trying to live out their sacramental marriage. So with that, I'll welcome Sue and Michael.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Michael, this is Sue. And just a little bit about us, maybe to start. We've been married 33 years.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And we have 2 fully grown children. Both are now married, both live on their own, and we are at that stage. We got into this because we have a charism for the sacrament of marriage. We're quite convinced in our own lives that it is truly God's love that we are sharing as our covenant between ourselves and with Him. And we have a concern over really the secular world invading the domestic church, invading the house. And we think there is an attack on traditional marriage. And this is something very important to us.
So we heard the call from David through Teens of Our Lady, actually, that they're looking for couples who are interested in the marriage coaching ministry. And it took very little for us in our conversation that the Holy Spirit said, no, this is something you need to do. And we just want to thank all those who are listening tonight for their contributions, because they support our training, our ongoing development, as well as all of the materials and books, and tools and such that we can use with our couples.
Sue and Michael, what does it look like? What does it look like when a couple reaches out to you, kind of from start to finish, or maybe you continue to journey with them, kind of after the kind of the deepest part of the sessions are completed? What does it look like? How do you help the couple?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Father. So couples come from all different stages of their marriage, and we're take them through the process. As David said, we follow a 7-step process, and quite candidly, the process seems to work. There's something truly, the Holy Spirit is working in it. We've had couples that have been very early in their marriage, and they're prayerful people. They're active in their parish, but they were still in the he and she stage, not in the we stage. And that was very important for them to come together. Quite candidly, that couple has asked to continue to meet with us even after the sessions were over, and we still do that. And we have to say that David didn't have it quite right. Sure, it's a good thing for those couples, but really the rewards are for us. And we see the couples at all different stages. And when through the process, we see that epiphany of when something comes together for them, it's truly rewarding for us.
But the sessions themselves, they go through those major things that you really need to think about as a couple. There's, forgiveness and prayer and priorities, putting God and your spouse and then your children in order, and just working through the different steps to build the intimacy and the closeness with the couples as they add one step to the next to the next. Does that answer your question, Father?
I think so.
You're doing a great job.
So I've been married for 10 years, and in that time, my husband and I were blessed with 5 children, so it's been a little chaotic. So doing the marriage mentorship that you do, walking with other couples, what's one piece of advice that maybe both of you separately would give to a married couple, maybe within the first 10 years of marriage? That's very specific, isn't it? As they're starting out this life together. I love that you use the language of, me and myself, or me and I versus us and we. What's one piece of advice that you would give couples?
Oh, well, I would say is the priorities thing, particularly when you get into the children and your careers and everybody's going in different directions. And you need to understand that if you and your husband are not that priority, the whole family is going to suffer. So that would be my advice.
And really that comes from having a Christ-centered marriage. I would add that really the thing that's been most evident as we go through with the couples is forgiveness. And we take them through a hardness of heart exercise, and it becomes very clear to them that any kind of thing that has not been forgiven between the two of them it just begins to grow and grow and grow, and the negative outcroppings from that. And finally, last but not least, because we've been at that stage, take time for each other. Have a coffee date once a week or a mini date night whenever you can. Don't wait to schedule it. Put it on a recurring schedule and do it.
If there are other couples, you mentioned that you have a charism to help other couples kind of live out their sacrament of matrimony to one another. If there are other couples out there who feel like they have the same gift, how might they be able to get involved in the ministry that you're in as well?
For us, it's we look at other couples and have mentioned, please contact David if this is something that you're being called to, and find a way into the program, if that's what makes sense.
We came into it on I want to say the second wave. We weren't part of the original lessons that went on with a couple from Colorado. So we did everything virtually. So it's possible to get trained, and then you just talk to the other couples and learn how they went about doing it. But just talk to David and, say, hey, we're interested. Where do we go from here?
Okay. So there's actually, Mary, our communications teams always does a wonderful job keeping the websites up to date that the diocese has. And you can visit aod.org/marriage-support to get more information on being a mentor couple, if you'd like to be one, or if you need one.
I wanted to ask you another question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that we did, and we're parishioners at St. Regis in Bloomfield Hills, is we took the pamphlet and made sure there were copies available where information is dispersed in the parish.
Fantastic. So because of, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this, but we keep talking about how ministry has been radically shifted with the pandemic. So how has your mentorship looked in the past 6 months without, I'm assuming you maybe met in person before. Are you meeting virtually with couples? How does that look during this particular time?
Yeah, it's been a struggle. It's a great point, and it's actually a little bit sad in that there's been a couple of the couples that had teenage or college-age kids that were back in the house, and they didn't feel comfortable talking about this while others were in the house, so they've pressed pause, and they haven't started back up yet. So it's been difficult, and I think there's struggles a little bit with some couples trying to read the signs that the church is saying about is it okay to get together or not. We feel comfortable meeting. We've offered to the couples if they want to meet at a coffee shop or or wherever, we'll do that. We do some virtually, but some couples have tapped the brakes.
In a normal situation, yes, we would meet face to face. We do most of our coaching, or have did most of our coaching beforehand at parishes in their offices. We would, sign out a conference room and do it in a location that's in between the two couples' locations, so that it's convenient for everybody. So that's what we normally would do it. But yeah, it's been a struggle.
Well, I want to just thank you so much for your time. It is so important to me to see couples that have been together for longer than my husband and I have, to kind of learn from your witness. So thanks for being willing to share that witness, because I think sometimes people have those stories, but they don't fully share them. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Up next, we're going to introduce a friend of mine, Tara Stanger, who is one of the family evangelization coordinators. And Tara is going to be talking tonight with us about a resource in the Archdiocese that shifted the way my family prays. And I have told everybody that I know that this particular resource is the best thing that the Archdiocese of Detroit has ever put out in my entire time in the diocese.
Wow.
I know it's that good. No pressure, Tara, as you explain this.
Good.
But I would love it if you could tell people about 52 Sundays and the work that you did with that and how that has impacted family life.
I'm not sure I can do as well as you did, Mary. So,
I really liked it, Tara.
I brought it too, so you can see it.
Yay, it's so pretty.
52 Sundays. It's a book. Yeah, it came out of the call from Unleash the Gospel for families to reclaim Sundays and make it a day different than any other day of the week. And the letter calls for us to do that through attending Mass, doing an activity together, and sharing a meal. So as our team came together and started brainstorming what that could look like and how we could help families do that, 52 Sundays was born. And so we put together a book for the 2020 calendar year, and pre-sales for the 2021 edition start today. So weekly emails are going out. We have a website. Yeah, so it's everything today. It's very exciting.
Oh, Tara, that is so awesome.
You have made her day.
So yeah, so we're excited. Well, little did you know. So yeah. Surprise. But yeah, so we're excited. It was a great little tool that families could use to kind of help them reclaim Sundays. And it's packed full of content for every week of the year and Christmas. And then next year, we're excited. It will have all of that and the Triduum. So we can walk you through Holy Week together as a family as well. So it'll be great.
Tara, we know
So what do you want to know about it?
Yes.
Okay, so the dispensation, we know, to attend Mass has been extended until the end of November. And so we know that still some families particularly are still not comfortable coming back into church. And so we're still called to keep Sunday holy, obviously, and this can be a great tool for families. So how can this be a good resource for families to keep Sunday holy within the context of their home?
That's a great question. And we found a lot of families were pulled to this as everything went into quarantine to start, and they're still utilizing it and finding different ways to use it even now as the dispensation continues. My own household is one of them. And so what you find is the Sunday Gospel is printed right in here. I actually marked it so you could see, but yeah, you can see that we have like a whole spread of information, and it includes the gospel for that Sunday to read along with. So as we would turn on a live stream Mass or pull it up on our TV with the Mass for shut-ins or things like that, you can pull it out, read over what's coming up this Sunday and be prepared. What my family found really useful was the liturgy link. It gives you a little way to connect to the Mass in a deeper way, or somehow to connect to the arts and environment. And for my kids, as we were virtually visiting different parishes, it helped them see that Mass exists no matter where we're at, and they could look for those kind of symbols or different things we listen for at Mass and find those different ways. So this becomes a way that parents can feel confident and comfortable sharing that part of Mass with them. And then we know technology sometimes has its little hiccups. We had that one Sunday where rain knocked stuff out and we couldn't pull anything up at that time, but we could still discuss things and talk about things as Mass goes on so we could have that deeper conversation. And it doesn't have to be that I have a theology degree and know everything about that particular reading. This gives you questions and discussion and a way to go deeper into it. And you get to hear other people's responses and enter into great conversation as a family.
Tara, I have a confession to make. 52 Sundays is so good that I go to it sometimes
you
for some
do.
homily
I
help
bet
for
I
Sundays.
have no-
so
yeah.
kudos to you and your team.
That's the dream. That's the dream, Father Mario. Because then families can connect what they're doing at home with what they're hearing at Mass.
It's a
That's
win.
beautiful.
It's a win.
You just made me. You made
It's a
me
win.
so happy.
That's fantastic.
The way we make Mary happy, now you made me happy.
I know,
Thank
right?
you. That's awesome.
Tara,
That's
you just-
amazing.
One thing that I just have shared with so many people about 52 Sundays is that it is so practical and not difficult. So sometimes I think in a attempt to serve families, we do things that like just practically I can't do with 5 small children. But the way that you guys have laid out the book, it really allows you to pick and choose things and really enhance your Sundays versus feeling burdened by yet another tool that's going to make me feel guilty for not doing enough. So my question is, for the book that you've written for 2021, that pre-orders available today, kind of freaking out, what things did you keep the same? What things did you change?
That's a great question. And I appreciate that you point that out, Mary, because the book was designed that families can use as little or as much of it as they want to help them grow in discipleship. So it is not that you have to use it all to feel like that's the only way you can achieve success using 52 Sundays. And so this year, what we did, we had a plethora of things, and a lot of them are staying the same. We only are swapping out one thing. We used to do a quote from Unleash the Gospel to help families see how the pastoral letter calls families to live it out every day of their lives. And this year we've changed it more into an action item. There will be a family challenge that will help families learn how to live out the gospel through practical random acts of kindness, different virtues, all kinds of different ways each week that they can try to continue Sunday throughout the rest of their week. Something special we're doing this year is we're taking the saint, and instead of it just necessarily tying in with that week or a theme going on, is we're really going to spend some time exploring some of the heroes of our faith and looking at some of the martyrs and seeing the beautiful stories of how they lived out their faith and then the ultimate sacrifice they made. And so families can take that opportunity to learn about different ways families lived out their faith in a long spree. And then you can also see sometimes where people were just called in a moment to make an ultimate sacrifice. And you can see the beautiful history of our faith all over the world. We have saints from every corner, from like Oceania all the way to the United States. We're all over the place to kind of understand and see the far-reaching effects of our church.
Tara, I'm going to ask a question because Mary is too excited to. But you mentioned that pre-order starts today. So where can we pre-order 52 Sundays?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's at 52sundays.com. You can go right there. You'll see a banner right at the top that lets you know where you can pre-order. And we have a sale price going because it's pre-ordered, obviously, so that makes it super exciting. Yes. But yeah, if you just visit 52sundays.com, you can hit both of what you're looking for. You can pre-order at the top, and if you go to the bottom of the page, Father Mario, you'll see the content for this upcoming Sunday. So you can start being prepared and know what's going on. So you can see a little preview of what that looks like. And you can, when you click on the pre-order, Mary, you can see the cover and see what's coming for next year. So it'll be exciting.
Excited. All right, I want to ask you one more question because it's so obvious to me that the Holy Spirit was so involved in this process because it is innovative. It's not something I've ever seen before, a tool like this. In the last, I don't know how many Sundays have occurred since 52 Sundays was released, but has there been a moment where you've been like, wow, God has used this? And as somebody that worked on it, really been able to see the Spirit move through this particular resource?
Yes, and it's amazing the little ways you see it. Yeah, no, but I would say social media, and I'm going to give a shout out to you here, Mary. You really work to pull families together on social media as a way for us to share together and talk about the different ways we're sharing our faith. But what was really fascinating for me in January, even as it was starting, people with their recipe or their activity or the prayer space they set up, sharing this on their social media channels in a way that they may not have normally talked about the faith or shared anything. I had my sister-in-law sending me a text like, hey, isn't this the resource you were talking about? Because her friends are sharing them and she may not even know what faith they were. You're finding all these different, or she may have known they were Catholic, but not the way they were practicing with their kids. And so it was great to see this awesome witness that was just from us living our everyday lives. And this just gave us a conversation and a way to talk about it that is shared between all of us, which I love for the Universal Church. It's this great way to see it. And we're finding people from all over the country, as it's a beautiful resource made for the Archdiocese of Detroit. But we're hearing from people in Illinois, in Texas, California, dioceses all over the place, sharing it with their families because they can see that it's helping them grow as the domestic church.
My sisters put an entire group together in Lexington, Kentucky. One of my sisters bought 10 books, and they're like, we're doing it together because it was just so cool. So kudos.
Tara, you touched on something that we've heard a few times tonight and that we'll hear again. The country looks to the Archdiocese of Detroit for many of these different wonderful ministries. You know, we heard that in Kevin's talk about Catholic schools and yours, about the Office for Family Ministries. We hear that a lot about our communications office as well. So many good things that our viewers tonight and parishioners all over the Archdiocese are supporting. We want to be sure to highlight, too, there's another way that people can stay up to date with 52 Sundays, and that's through a weekly newsletter. So just briefly tell us about that and how you can sign up for it.
You again would go to 52sundays.com, and on there you'll see where you can sign up by email, and you'll get a weekly email. I think it comes out on Wednesday of each week, and it will give you the content and some ideas. And then sometimes we can link you to other opportunities for families to grow. Like we did a Lenten Family Prayer Challenge this year, which had 1,800 participants of people being able to pray together for different family members and a different theme each day. And that was one way we were able to engage people to know about it, was through this 52 Sundays website. And then the website will also have other content at times, like different videos or different prayer resources to help families engage even deeper. But if you sign up for that weekly email, it'll instantly be coming to your inbox and you don't have to think about it. I know somebody in Ohio, she was saying that's great for her because then she just knows it's there and she doesn't have to worry about finding the book sometimes. She knows she can just pull it up and start preparing and plan for it. I personally like the hardcover book because it gives us something to open, and my kids know when they see the cover come out that we're doing something with it. And so it just has become a nice little focus in our family. But yeah, if you go right to 52sundays.com, you can sign up right there.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Tara, for telling us all about the launch and the pre-order for 52 Sundays. Thanks for all your work. God bless.
Thank you both for having me.
So this next piece of what we get to do tonight for this CSA Day of Giving is pretty exciting to me, and I'm sure to you too, because this particular office has a super special place in both of our hearts, and that is the Office for Youth Ministry. So we are blessed tonight to have with us both Laura Piccone-Hanchin, a youth ministry team leader, and Holly Tockstein, the youth ministry coordinator at Christ the Good Shepherd Parish in Lincoln Park. I'm so excited to have both of these women with us. In a particular way, I always share that Laura was my youth minister. So I still say to this day, this is my youth minister, Laura. Like, it doesn't matter that I am 40 years old. You are my youth minister, Laura. And I say, and I tell people all the time that the ministry that you did both as a teen, as a youth minister in a parish and then also at a diocesan level has shaped my faith life in really profound ways. And so I'm excited to talk about youth ministry tonight with both Laura and Holly. So Laura, tell us, why is youth ministry so important and so vital for the young people in this Archdiocese of Detroit?
Well, thanks for having me and for those really kind words. Means a lot to me. Research has shown just recently, especially, that young people really desire really strong relationships. They want to have a sense of belonging. They really want to be able to develop strong relationships and ones that are authentic. And so what people are thinking is, how is it that we can bring our churches together to meet those needs? And so it really is a great gift for our young people to be able to have churches that want to build these authentic relationships. We want to make sure that young people are the church of today. Otherwise, they're not going to be the church of tomorrow. And so what is it that we can do to be very intentional about reaching out to the adolescents, especially? There's many different opportunities that we can think about when we get young people involved in our parishes. There's so many opportunities ministry opportunities. There's opportunities for service. There's opportunities for leadership and catechesis. And how is it that this can also help to lead the families along the path of discipleship with the teenager? So a lot of times it can affect more people than just the teenagers themselves. Pope Francis himself just recently wrote an apostolic exhortation called Christus Vivit. And he talks about the importance of ministering to this young generation, because we can't take them for granted when we think about our church of future generations. So super vital ministry that requires a lot of authentic relationship building and accompanying our young people.
And Holly, again, from Christ the Good Shepherd in Lincoln Park. Your name is synonymous with youth ministry, as is Laura's here in the Archdiocese. And we know that, so for Laura and for her co-workers in the Chancery, in particular in the Office for Youth Ministry, their ministry is to serve people like you who work in parishes and the young people whom you serve. And so can you tell us a little bit about what's your interaction with the Office for Youth Ministry?
I have a lot of interaction with the Office of Youth Ministry for sure. And I have to say that they've been a godsend for me. When I first started out in youth ministry, I really, I didn't have a lot of background in it. I hadn't been in youth ministry myself as a young person. And so just being able to work with them to help me get started, to have a ministry at our parish when we did not have one, was instrumental for me. It was great. And I continue to work closely with them. You know, we have meetings every month. They provide several resources and support through various retreats, through various workshops, opportunities for networking with other youth ministers, but also if we just need some help within our own program. I have no problem just giving them a call and meeting up with them, and so especially one of our representatives to help us in our program. So I have to say, I think the Office of Youth Ministry is one of the best offices that I've ever worked with in the Archdiocese, and they're just invaluable to me as a youth minister.
Laura, I want to ask you, one thing that I just heard recently is that the two populations during the pandemic that we have to be most focused on and maybe even worried about are young people and the elderly, because of the potential for isolation that's been brought about by some of the social distancing measures that we're doing to keep us safe. How did your office respond to that? How are you still responding to that? In what ways are you making sure that your youth ministers are being connected so that young people are being connected and young people are being connected when we've moved this element of relational in person away?
Yeah, so that was a big challenge for us. Of course, we weren't expecting what happened. And so what we had to do in March, like I've heard with other ministries, is completely pivot what we were doing in order to best serve the people that we're here to serve, without being able to get together in person with young people, especially in March and April. What we started doing is bringing together a lot of resources that we put online. First of all, we helped youth ministers to understand some best practices for online mentoring with young people. What can their online relationships look like in a safe way? How is it that they can be relational despite the social distancing? But then what we started doing is we started offering a lot of virtual trainings, a lot of virtual support, like spiritual enrichment days, prayer opportunities. We started bringing people together to support one another virtually on a more regular basis so that they felt more accompanied, that I think helped them to accompany the young people in a better way. So just giving them a lot of best practices, allowing them to talk to one another. We started having some brainstorming gatherings where they got to bring together the things that have worked well so that they could learn from each other and get new ideas at the same time. So in a weird way, it ended up being a little bit of a blessing in the fact of bringing young people together online, in some cases with some young people that may never have gathered actually in person with one another.
It's so awesome to hear when people that are working at a diocesan level had this huge curveball thrown at them and describe it as like positive. Like we were able to really turn it. We've heard it time and time again tonight, how really hard things in terms of ministry were addressed in a relevant and quick way for the people that we serve. So thank you for that. Holly, if you can explain to us, what has youth ministry looked like for you in the last 6 months? What does it look like when you're a youth minister that's not meeting in person with your teenagers?
Yeah, I have to say that it was a little bit scary at first. I wasn't exactly sure how we were going to handle that. But we ended up jumping on the Zoom bandwagon and having virtual meetings going online with our young people. And so we would meet from week to week with them and just give them a space where they could share how they were feeling, whether they were experiencing blessing or experiencing difficulty throughout the pandemic, not being at school or missing out on a lot of things with their classmates. And we decided to do a little mission trip at home during the pandemic because we couldn't travel to Cincinnati where we were going to go for our normal mission trip. So we did a small local 2-day event where we had youth gather, but we ended up going over to St. Aloysius Parish, Father Mario's parish. And it was really beautiful because we had the opportunity to learn about the history of the area. We attended Mass, we made sandwiches for the people living in the local area. And then we also went out to St. Dominic Outreach Center where we were able to spend some time doing some work out in the yard and just making the area look better, look nicer for the people working there. And other things include like my husband and I, who helps me in youth ministry, doing videos online for our young people, bringing care packages to their home. We would make pepperoni rolls usually for our Mother's Day bake sale. So we just kind of did a little drop off for young people and moms, just trying to keep connected and keep that personal relationship going during a time where we weren't able to meet together as a group.
You know, Holly, you bring up your husband, Aaron, and I know Laura's husband, Matt, as well. Both are a reminder to us of the generosity of our lay ecclesial ministers in the church, and especially your spouses and your family members who support you. So often, it's such a team effort, and we just give thanks to God for all the ways in which your families have supported you and have allowed you to be the instruments of God's love and mercy, most especially to our young people. So thanks so much for both of you tonight, and to your families for all the good work that you do.
I have to say, I just want to say that when I think of peers my age, and I've said this before, that are actively involved in their faith, that have gotten married in the church, that have baptized their kids in the church, almost all of them without exception had a profound experience of youth ministry when they were in high school. And so I just think this particular ministry is so needed, and it's tough. It's not easy in 2020, and I feel like the youth ministers in the Archdiocese and the Office for Youth Ministry is doing a fantastic job. So thank you for what you do. Awesome. So inspiring to hear from David, Tara, and Laura about all the work being done for youth and families in the Archdiocese right now. Please consider making a gift in support of their work and the work of over 170 other ministries in the Archdiocese by visiting www.aodgivingday.org.
Don't forget, you can select an interest if one of the ministries really speaks to your heart and you desire to support that ministry. And again, all the more than 170 ministries that CSA supports.